We've been learning a lot over the past few weeks about global climate and conservation issues and conservation threats in other countries. This week, we're going to be looking at what we can do to help our native wildlife here in Britain. When we think of endangered species, we often think of exotic animals and countries and continents very far away, and we don't tend to think of our own native wildlife as needing protecting. But would it surprise you to discover that the UK is now one of the most nature-depleted places on the planet? Agriculture, climate change, urbanisation and pollution are just some of the issues which are currently putting our natural spaces and native wildlife at risk. When we think of our UK wildlife, we often think about foxes, hedgehogs, badgers and birds such as owls and pigeons. These are some of our most iconic and instantly recognisable animals, but the UK is actually home to over 70,000 different species, all of which play an important role in our ecosystems. If just one species disappears, this has a negative impact on all the other species in the ecosystem who rely on it for survival. Let's take a look at one of our native rodents. A mouse, for example. Mice play an important role in our ecosystems. They are herbivores and eat a plant-based diet including vegetation, fruits, nuts and seeds. Scientists have discovered that in tropical forests, rodents play an important role in the distribution of seeds, spurring the growth of new trees and foliage and improving the health of the forest. In this country, mice are an important part of the food chain and a key source of food for predators such as foxes and birds of prey such as owls. If mice were to disappear, predatory animals would lose a main source of their food and competition would increase for other food sources, placing a significant strain on the ecosystem and predator and prey populations. Unfortunately, mice and other rodents have also gained a negative reputation as pests over the years, and as a result, many people resort to poison to control their numbers. These poisons are extremely damaging to ecosystems and can be deadly to other animals too. If predatory animals such as foxes and owls eat poisoned mice, the poison builds up in their bodies and can kill them too. In 2018, 87% of barn owls were thought to have been contaminated by poison, and 100% of kestrels examined in 2011. Agricultural practices, such as the use of pesticides and the clearing of hedgerows and ponds, as well as urbanisation, have also had a very damaging impact on natural spaces and wildlife populations in the UK. As more areas have been given over to housing and business development, the natural habitats of our native wildlife have declined and wildlife populations have been cut off. An example of one such species which has suffered seriously as a result of increased urbanisation is the hedgehog. Hedgehogs are now a protected species in the UK, and the speed of their decline is a shocking one. In the 1950s, it is estimated that there were around 30 million hedgehogs, but today there are only about 1 million left. What is even more shocking is that it is estimated that hedgehog numbers have halved since the year 2000, meaning that we have lost around 50% of our native hedgehog population in the last 20 years. There are now fewer naturally green spaces, as increasingly our gardens are being given over to decking, paving slabs and plastic turf. As plant diversity decreases and pesticide use increases, there is a decrease in the hedgehog's natural food sources such as insects, slugs and snails, and they have found themselves increasingly cut off by the fragmentation of their natural habitat, by fencing and increasing industrial development. Now you know a little bit more about the threats faced by British wildlife. download this week's activity sheet. This week we're going to be asking you to think about some of the things you think could be done to help protect our native wildlife.